Throughout the 19th century, the steam engine was used for everything from driving machinery in mills and factories to propelling ships across the oceans, and from lifting coal from the depths of the earth to powering great locomotives. But one man was to change all that with the invention of a completely new type of steam engine that was to revolutionise the supply of power. The steam turbine was invented by Charles Parsons, and it was to have a massive impact on the home, on transport and on the workplace. In the 1880s, when Parsons was at university, the Industrial Revolution was in full flow, mainly powered by great reciprocating steam engines of one form or another, a lot of them driven by bevel cogwheels and shafting, and of course the noise were horrific. Thing is, I had a friend once who, God bless him, is deceased now, and he was the chief mechanical engineer for a textile firm up here called Van Toner. And he used to tell me tales about when he had to go around repairing steam engines, and of course you've got to put yourself in the picture. It's the middle of the night, and it's like 3 o'clock in the morning, and they think they've ironed out the problem with this steam engine, which had a great deal of bevel gearing in its transmission to different parts of the works. And they decided they'd give it a run, and they started it up, and the noise, dong, ding, dong, 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 dong. And the next thing, outside the mill gates, there's about 20 people who'd been woken up by the noise of the gearing and thought it was like 7 o'clock, time to go, sort of thing. It's incredible. And of course, this, led to the quest to find something that didn't make as much noise. And the answer to that was electricity, which changed the whole way that machinery like this was driven. Up to this time, belts, pulleys and gears were the only way to take the energy from the point of generation and deliver it to a machine that was some distance away. The coming of electricity meant that the energy could be delivered directly and silently to a motor on the machine, but electricity didn't make steam redundant. The thing that made possible the mass supply of electricity was steam, and nearly all the electricity generated in Great Britain comes from power stations like this behind me, and of course the steam turbine. In 1888, Charles Parsons installed his first ever steam turbine in Forth Banks Power Station in Newcastle on Tyne, and that was the forerunner of many, many more, and we still use the steam turbine today. This is Eggborough Power Station in East Yorkshire, and it's fired on pulverised coal. That means crushed up coal, and it does 5% of Great Britain's demand for electricity. When you think just one power station has a lot of electric, 5% for all of Great Britain. These cooling towers are 380 feet high and approximately 200 feet across the base. And have you ever wondered why they need to be so large? There is a very good reason for it, and I think what we'll do, we'll have a look what it's like inside. The sole purpose of it is the cooling water from the turbines enters in a series of pipes a few feet below where we are here. With the warm water going down, it creates like warmth inside this great chamber, and then through that big gap at the bottom, the cold air rushes in and of course cools off the water, and then it's sent back to the condensers in the power station. There are 8 of these great cooling towers, and of course the steam issuing from the top can be seen 10 and 15 miles away. The stuff that comes out the top of here is quite harmless. It just turns into dew and floats away. It don't do any harm to anybody. The coal arrives by train, and there's 1,000 tons on every train load. When it arrives, it's taken into where these conveyor belts are over the back, and of course pulverised into a very fine powder. Coal dust is highly inflammable. As soon as it goes into the boiler, it explodes with an unbelievable ferocity and generates a hell of a lot of heat. Peak periods, when everybody's turning on the microwaves and the cookers and lighting the electric fires, it burns 800 tons an hour. Here I am in one of the great boilers, incredible thing, almost like a cathedral. Down in the bottom, there's a great boiler full of water, which is connected to another great drum at the top by thousands and thousands of yards of tubing, which contains an unbelievable pressure when it's going of 2,500 pounds per square inch. And when the coal dust is blasting through these nozzles here, these are the burners, you know, blown in, which in the middle here is just a great, unbelievable fireball impinging on all these pipes, each of which is full of water, until it gets higher up where it turns to steam at that great pressure. Here we are in the great turbine hall, where there are 4 separate steam turbines and generators. What naturally happens, steam enters the turbine by a series of nozzles round the perimeter of the blades inside the casing. Of course, when it comes out, it expands and turns the rotors. And they use every available ounce of pressure that there's in it. Really, it hasn't changed very much since 1884, when Mr. Parsons first designed it. It actually revolves at 3,000 revolutions a minute, and of course turns the shaft that works the generator next door, which is really a big electromagnet that generates the electricity. Even in a modern nuclear power station like this one at Ayrsham in Lancashire, steam is still at the heart of the process. The main difference between a coal-fired and a nuclear power station is the fuel. Instead of using coal, a nuclear power station uses uranium contained in metal fuel rods to heat the water, which makes the steam to turn the turbine. But although nearly all of industry is powered by electricity today, there are still a few businesses around that do things the traditional way, like this little brewery tucked away in rural Oxfordshire. Here at Ootnoyne Brewery, steam is alive and well. They use a combination of original steam power and years of expertise in the brewing trade to produce their prize-winning ales and stouts. Beer still brewed here using the traditional methods in this beautiful building that was erected in 1899. This is it, the main power plant. The steam engine that were made 104 years ago by Buxton and Thornley at Burton-on-Trent, especially for the brewing business. It works all the plant via a system of line shafting and bevel gears and cone clutches to every floor in the place. And over here, this is Mr. James Clark, whose family have run this brewery for 5 generations. And he's going to explain a bit about it to me. Isn't that right, Jim?
Yes. Being a brewery, we always have a sort of abundance of steam around. We've got 2 modern oil-fired boilers, so we're really just using some of the steam that's there anyway. So these ideas of combined heat and power plants for climate change levy are not particularly new. Now, I'd far rather see equipment like this working than just there for show, and that's what this does. It's there to work.
Yeah, so would I, yeah. It's lovely, though. Yeah. Right, what exactly is going on in here then?
Well, in here we've got today's brew, just coming to the end of its boiling process. Energy being supplied by the steam that run the engine. It's the basis of beer, but it's not being fermented yet. We've added the hops, you can probably smell that in the aroma coming off. And shortly afterwards this will be run out into another vessel called the hopback, where we'll remove the solid hop material, ready for its cooling process.
I had an uncle once who made hop bitters, and I think he went to a brewery for the spent hops, and, you know, yeah, they were right good stuff. It weren't alcoholic though. It was just like drinking beer, but you didn't get drunk.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that.
No, I never did. The grist mill is yet another example of the original machinery still on day-to-day use in the brewing process here, and is still driven by steam. The mill breaks open the malt grains so the flavour comes out in the brew. At the end of the process, the engine pumps the brew all the way up to the top floor for cooling.
This is our work pump, again driven by the steam engine. To a main crank at the top. It's actually a bank of 3 pumps.
Yeah.
And the work that we saw boiling in the copper earlier has been run into the hop backs behind us here. The hops are being strained out, and the work's now being pumped nearly to the top of the brewery again.
Yeah, when you go in the pub, really, there's not many people seen under the counter, but the tattle there is very similar, isn't it? For when you say a pint, please, and
that's just the same design. That's a positive displacement pump, which is very gentle on the liquid it's moving.
Thank you. Well, here we are, drinking a sample of the end product brewed by steam power. Very nice, though. But there are not many steam engines still earning the living like the one at Hook Norton. Hundreds and hundreds of them have been scrapped, but some have been saved and have now become museum exhibits. This is the National Railway Museum in York, where they have some of the most famous locomotives in railway history. The A4 Pacifics were built by Sir Nigel Gresley, and when they first appeared in the mid-1930s, their revolutionary design caused a sensation. Mallard was one of the many A4 class steam locomotives built by Gresley for the London and North Eastern Railway. And of course, with all its wonderful streamlining, it went very fast. Up the east coast from London to Edinburgh non-stop. The first of Nigel Gresley's A4 Pacifics left Doncaster Works in 1935, and it wasn't long before a major problem manifested itself. The things went that fast, the current braking system of the period were no good, and they had to get the Westinghouse Brake and Signal Company to redesign all the braking system. Gresley decided that it would be a good opportunity to push the locomotive to its limit and maybe capture back the speed record of the LMS people. Also, maybe get the world speed record back off the Germans. It must have been very exciting in 1938 when the driver and the fireman climbed on board. Mallard left Grantham heading towards Peterborough with 6 coaches and a dynamometer car to register the speed and the power. And they reached the unbelievable speed of 126 miles an hour. It must have been exciting up here going that fast, believe me. But it were all shaking about everywhere, you know. I remember listening to the recording of the man who actually drove it after the event.
Once over the top, I gave Mallard her head, and she just jumped to it like a live thing. After 3 miles, the speed meter in my cab showed 107 miles an hour. And before I knew it, the needle was at 116, and we got the record. Go on, old girl, I thought, we can do better than this. So I nursed her and shot through Little Batham at 123, 123 and a half, 124, 125, 126 miles per hour. 126? That was the fastest speed a steam locomotive had ever been driven in the world.
Mallard now has pride of place in the museum. It's the biggest collection of railway locomotives in the land. The biggest collection of steamrollers and traction engines that I know of is also in a museum at Thursford in Norfolk, and it's one I've known about for a long time. When I was about 15 years old, it came to my knowledge by people who travel a bit further than I'd ever travelled that deep hidden away in a place called Thursford in Norfolk, there were a gentleman who'd got a field full of steam engines. Incredible. Everybody said he was mad because he was buying them 40-odd years ago for like £25 each, and that's about all they were worth, you know, and some of them got cut up for a lot less. The man who actually collected all these, his name was George Cushing, and he collected 45, I think, of these engines. I mean, he's really got nearly one of every type of traction engine and portable engine that you could wish to have. This one here, which is, I know for a fact, one of Mr. Cushing's favourite makes, the Aveling and Porter. Thomas Aveling did a great deal for the development of the traction engine. After the Aveling, the next one on the list is a Burrell, which, of course, just like Avelings, they were like country blacksmiths in Thetford. It makes you wonder how they could have constructed something like this in a village hidden away in Norfolk. It's amazing. All of them, each individual person the beginnings of the firms were village blacksmith. And then, of course, you know, they've developed into quite big engineering concerns that made literally hundreds of these things, right up till 1930s when the death knell were here, you know. I mean, they didn't really have a great long life, you know, not as long as the actual steam locomotive. This is what's known as a Savage centre engine. The engine were placed in the centre of a great roundabout. They built the roundabout round the thing, and it's rather interesting because this is thought to be the second oldest one of its type in existence. Quite lots of nice embellishments on it and looks very pretty, doesn't it? Mr. Cushing bought them, not because he thought thousands of people had come and look at them. He bought them because he really loved them. He realised what a shame it would be if they all got chopped up. I did have the pleasure of meeting him. I'm afraid to say he just passed on at the ripe old age of nearly 99. He were only a week short or something like that. But whatever he did, he deserves a lot of recognition for saving all these magnificent pieces of machinery. He never really saw the end of his dream because there's still another 30 outside that have not been done up yet. But hopefully someday they will be. Nearly all Aveling and Porters, you know. That's one just like mine at home. Literally dozens of them, isn't there? Everywhere. Incredible place. To get all this lot running again would literally take thousands and thousands of man-hours. Fortunately, there are plenty around that are still running, kept alive by enthusiasts like this lot, who gathered for a steam fair in Camborne.
Hello, Fred, how are you?
I'm all right, man. How's your tractor?
Oh, doing very well.
Yeah. This machine here is one of the oldest Aveling and Porter tractors that got converted to a steamroller, didn't it?
That's right, yeah.
And of course, our mate here is going to convert it back to a tractor.
Somebody said the other day, oh, it'll look a lot nicer when you redo the paperwork. I thought, no.
Who gave you a passport to come here?
I don't come so often. It's
A long time no see, Fred.
10 years.
It is indeed.
Maybe more than that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's
You
right.
McLaren going.
Well, fine.
How many tons does it weigh?
22, according to the makers.
And they made quite a few, didn't
They made quite a few. This is the only McLaren firing engine of this size left in the world.
Today, it's only through the dedication of enthusiasts like this that historic steam engines are kept alive and in steam. There are more than 50 steam railways around the country, all run by enthusiasts. One that I found particularly interesting is the Tamfield Railway, just outside Newcastle. One of the things that is interesting about it is that here you can see the whole history of the railways, from the earliest horse-drawn wagonways right up to the modern little industrial locos like this one that was built by Robert Stevenson and Company in the 1940s, more than 100 years after they had built rockets. Oh, thank you very much. Today, the Tamfield Railway is run by a group of dedicated enthusiasts.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, we're here to get steam up.
We'll have a look.
Here at the Marley Hill engine sheds, they've built up a grand collection of industrial locomotives that have come from shut down power stations and defunct coal mines. How many locomotives have you got on your railway?
I do believe that there are 54.
That's a lot of engines,
One
isn't it?
shape or another.
Yeah,
various degrees of working or not working, as you might say.
How many wagons would it pull this when it was performing proper, you know?
Well, I would think nothing of 25 coal hoppers, drawing them in and out of collieries.
Only a few hundred ton then, eh? On that,
1,500 ton on the level, I think, this one.
Yeah, that's a lot of weight, eh?
You get a little bit more firing than what we got at the moment.
Yeah, all right. But a lot more noise, eh?
Yeah.
It runs very sweet, doesn't it? It's a nice engine.
It's a nice engine.
Yeah.
Have a lot of work done to it.
Yeah. Squealing flanges. This is the Causey Arch, the oldest railway bridge surviving in the world. It was built in 1725 to 26 by a group of coal owners who called themselves the Grand Allies. Nobody really had built an arch that big in 1725. They used sort of Roman technology and for a bit of a guide, you know, and it was years before anybody built another one as big as this one. The thing is that the man who built it, Mr. Wood, had a sort of panic attack near the end, and before the thing was completed, it's reputed that he actually jumped off and never saw it finished. You know, he feared that the wagons of coal going over it might have collapsed it. And as many as 900 and odd wagons a day went over this bridge full of coal. Oh, the water level. All right.
Horse canyon's right up the top of the gas.
Yeah.
We'd need to watch it take us to go over a hill.
Yeah,
But before you go down the hill, you've got to make sure you've got plenty of water in the glass.
We don't want to drop the plug, yeah. Like a sort of hill we're going down this.
Oh, it is indeed, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a free wheel down here.
Aye. You work hard coming up when you've got the train on.
At a time when Stevenson were building lots and lots of locomotives, the Tamfield Railway here were still running on wooden tracks and horse propelled. It wasn't really till the 1840s that steam were introduced here, and then it weren't locomotives, it were 3 stationary winding engines, and of course all that remains of one of them is this rather sad hole in the ground here, full of big lumps of stone. Once here there were an engine room with a winding engine and a great chimney and a reservoir for the boilers. Then finally, in 1881 I think, they finally got steam locomotive proper. Apparently they haul the coal up and down during the week and bricks and all sorts of other materials, but on Saturdays the passengers could have a ride on, you know, the faint public in the same wagons that they brought the coal. There were quite a few railways like this round here in the northeast, including one from South Shields that was known as the Marsden Rattler by the locals. In a way, steam has now become a bit of an holiday attraction, something for a day out. Or if you come up here to Scotland, more like a week out, if you take a cruise on this lovely little steamer, the Vic 32. And they encourage you to have a go at everything. So you might find yourself shoveling coal, or helping to raise the anchor before you set sail to explore the lochs and islands off the west coast of Scotland. This boat was built in Yorkshire in 1942, and it's like based on the Clyde Puffer. The Clyde Puffers had no condenser. The exhaust steam went up the chimney and helped to draw the fire. And it was really designed for inshore delivery boats and all around the shores of Great Britain, delivering all sorts of stuff. When we were out in the loch, I talked to Nick Walker, the owner of the boat, and he told me that during the war it had been used to deliver ammunition.
It stands for Victualling Inshore Craft.
What did it do, like, after its days of, carrying ammunition and what have you?
Well, she was laid up in Rosyth Naval Dockyard,
Yeah.
and then sent to the scrapyard
Oh,
at
eh?
Inverkeithing. And we have Keith Schollenberg, who used to own the island of Egg, to thank for rescuing it from the scrapyard. My wife and I have spent the last 25 years restoring them and taking people on holiday.
It's quite a lot of people's dream to actually put to sea on a steam-driven ship.
Absolutely. Well, the whole thing's a dream come true.
Now, let's go down below and look at the engine. This is the engine. It's a compound, which really means that it uses the steam twice. And it's like typical of a boat of this sort of style. And what really transpires is the steam, first of all, is used in the high pressure cylinder, and then it's exhausted into an intermediate chamber, and then it's exhausted into the low pressure cylinder, which sort of equalises the pressure on the torque on the crankshaft. And after that, it's exhausted into the condenser, which of course is condensed back into water again, and used again over and over again, you see, because being a seafaring machine, you cannot take water out of the ocean. It's very bad for boilers. I've noticed that the pressure's dropping a bit, so I'd better put some more black gold on the fire and get the captain up top will be shouting down his pipe for more steam, I'll get on with that now. I'd rather be on this than on one of them plastic things. Now I've got steam up, he's going to let me have a go at the steering.
Right, keep in close to this shore now.
Yeah.
You've got to come closer. You're safer.
Yeah.
There are rocks all out here.
Yeah.
If you just come to starboard a bit.
Yeah.
Because we're clear of that.
That's
reef.
right-hand side, starboard.
Starboard right-hand side. That's
Yeah.
right. Yes.
Being a landlubber, I don't really know.
Just come to starboard slowly and follow this shore. Keep a look out for red lobster pots.
Yeah.
And if you see one, have a look out for the other one because they always come in pairs. We don't want the rope wrapped around our prop.
Yeah. Then he put me to work on a bit of steeplejacking. There's no better way to see this lovely Scottish scenery than from the decks of a Clyde puffer. It's magic. I wish I'd have lived in the days when you could travel like this all the time. But steam is more than just enthusiasm or nostalgia. Steam power was developed here in Britain, and it's one of our unique contributions to history. So it's a great credit to all the dedicated enthusiasts we've seen in this series. But such an important part of our heritage has been kept alive.
If you like what you see, hit that like button. You can subscribe to us here on YouTube. You can tweet us at HomeEd101 or visit our website homeed.net.